compensation. I'm Senator Adam Eben, the chair. Why don't we just do brief introductions from our members. We'll start with Delegate Runyon.
There we go. Good morning. Delegate Runyon, representing 35th District, which is parts of Augusta, Rockingham, all of Highland, and all of Bath. So happy to be here.
Good morning. Delegate Destiny Levere Bowling, representing House District 80, which is a portion of Henrico County.
I'm Adam Eben from the Senate, representing Alexandria in the 40th Senate District.
Good morning. I'm Senator Christy Craig. I represent District 19, which encompasses parts of Chesapeake and Virginia Beach.
Good morning. I'm Delegate Elizabeth Bennett Parker, representing the 5th District in Alexandria.
Good morning. I'm Delegate Candy Munden King, representing Stafford and Prince William counties in the 23rd District. And my microphone is out. I'll try again. I'm Delegate Candy Munden King. I represent Stafford and Prince William counties in the Virginia House of Delegates.
Thank you. Oh, and Senator DeStaff, did you want to please introduce yourself? Say hello.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. This is Senator Bill DeStaff, representing Norfolk, Virginia Beach, Accomack, Northampton, and 42 towns and cities.
Overachiever.
Thank you. Thank you for being here remotely. Okay. The presentation we have a presentation from the VEC as a next item on the agenda, and I'm going to ask Commissioner Mellis to please come forward. Good morning.
Okay?
Yes.
All right. Good morning, Chairman Eben and distinguished members of the committee. I'm Mitch Mellis, Commissioner of the Virginia Employment Commission, and appreciate the opportunity to be back with you today and for your continued engagement and support of the VEC. In October, I was pleased to provide a detailed report to the Unemployment Insurance Subcommittee regarding VEC's accomplishments and state of operations and improvements. Today, I will provide some fundamental information. Sorry, I just realized I've got to drive this. Gus, can I hand that to you? Thank you. Sorry about that. I'll provide some fundamental information as well as updates on key areas of our work, including our unemployment insurance system, trust fund health, operational initiatives, and customer service improvements. From a foundational standpoint, I'll start by introducing aspects of unemployment insurance. Although most of you will be familiar, I do think it often can be helpful to overview some of the unemployment's general purpose and eligibility requirements for receiving benefits. UI is a program designated and designed to provide temporary financial assistance to workers who lose their job through no fault of their own. Individuals who quit their job without good cause or were fired for misconduct, examples may include falsifying information on their application, failing a drug test, or being repeatedly late for work, would generally not be eligible. The program is funded solely through employer-paid taxes, not by employees. The financial assistance provided is temporary while they seek and pursue work. There are generally 3 requirements for receiving UI benefits: monetary eligibility, how much did the individual make; the qualification requirement, why were they laid off or separated; and the weekly eligibility requirement, are they still actively seeking work. Unemployment benefits are paid out of the Unemployment Insurance Trust Fund. The Unemployment Insurance Trust Fund is administered by the VEC and is the reserve of money set aside to pay unemployment benefits to eligible individuals who have lost their jobs. The fund is primarily financed through taxes paid by employers. On the right side of the slide are the employer taxes paid into the trust fund. Employer taxes are made up of the base rate tax, which is the experience rated and unique to each employer, depending on their individual loss history, similar to perhaps how an insurance agency may work. The pool tax is the cost of the socialization across all covered employers of benefit charges which cannot be assigned to an individual employer. These may include charges as a result of employer becoming inactive, a prorated portion of benefits paid by another state based on wages reported to Virginia, and differences between benefits paid and taxes collected from maximum rated employers. And the fund builder is imposed on all covered employers when the trust fund balance factors fall below 50%. And this is typically an additional 2%. Our trust fund continues to maintain a very healthy balance compared to historical levels. Solvency, which is based on recent claim history, is at 57%, due primarily from the impact in pandemic claims, which are still impacting the calculation. We expect this to continue to improve as tax rates return to normal beginning in 2025 and pandemic claim volume is removed from the calculation. Current calculation is a 3-year look back. Slide 5, average total sale tax per employee. Employer tax rates will be computed using standard methodology beginning January 1, after the pandemic era freeze expires on December 31st. As you all likely know, rates were frozen as part of Virginia's broader strategy to support businesses during the economic challenges posed by the pandemic and are now returning to normal since unemployment claims have normalized. In 2024, the average state tax per employee was $71.24, with a pool tax of $2.40. The average tax per employee for 2025 will be $53.60 with no pool tax. 2025 tax rate notices are going out in the next week, and employers can also access their latest UI tax information by logging into their employer's self-service account online. The VEC's largest source of funding is the U.S. DOL base grant. Pandemic-era funding has now expired, and we have returned to pre-pandemic base grant funding levels. During the 2024 session, the Governor and General Assembly adopted a proposal to establish a revenue-neutral administrative fee. This fee was established by reducing employer taxes by 0.05% and establishing a fee equal to the 0.05% of the taxable wages, with the fee separately reflected and itemized on the employer tax notices. The fee will go into effect in January of 2025 and is expected to generate approximately $16 million. Additionally, the General Assembly has authorized VEC to obtain a Treasury loan to cover necessary administrative operational overhead costs if needed. I'm very pleased to report at this time we continue to exercise very fiscal discipline in an effort to mitigate this need, and that has been mitigated considerably and may not be needed. On behalf of the VEC, I thank the members of this commission and of the General Assembly for approving the administrative fee, as it will allow the agency a consistent revenue source to ensure the functional and efficient critical operations of the VEC both now and allow us to be well positioned and prepared for more significant economic downturns. As requested, I'd like to provide an update on the few outstanding JLARC recommendations. The 6 remaining recommendations are heavily dependent on VEC IT and business resources. Number 40 specifically, it would require a piece of legislation. It is to mandate electronic tax payments. Currently, we can offer electronic payments, but we cannot mandate it. And we are in the process of addressing number 40, although it is a funding issue primarily. The remaining require a significant number of IT and business resources, and despite having made significant progress, they are incomplete at the moment, but we do have plans in place and we continue to work on them. Once these remaining 6 items are complete, we will have implemented all JLARC's recommendations dependent on VEC action, leaving only the 10 policy recommendations or options for the General Assembly's consideration. If there are any specific questions about any of those listed above, I'd be happy to answer them.
While we're here, number 40, requiring employers to make electronic tax payments. That one, I guess, it says estimated completion date January 1st, 2026, but it hasn't started yet. Is that just one that's just going to be all at once when it happens?
So the mandate, what we will be able to do is offer it as an option. We have begun the preliminary planning of working with which vendor will be required, but the technical requirements of building out the IT infrastructure to do it, we haven't had the funding to do that. With the forthcoming administrative fee, we do anticipate we would be able to support that.
Okay, thank you. Are there questions from members of the commission? Okay, continue.
Thank you. Customer service update. We continue to be very much focused on our customer service and services that we provide to the public overall. Putting our customers and citizens first has been a continuous, relentless effort, and we are continuously improving, I would say, on a day-to-day basis, if not at times hourly. The VEC has partnered with a digital identity verification provider, ID.me, is providing alternative login method to our customer portal. January will mark 1 year of this partnership, which has made it significantly easier and faster for customers to apply for benefits, file their weekly claims, and access important documents online. It has had multiple positive impacts, improving our customers' experience. 90% of our customers can successfully, successfully access the benefits system online using ID.me. With this new login option, we've seen a doubling of the percentage of initial claims filed online from 32% to 67%. As a result of, in large part, to the ID.me initiative, as well as our outreach, education, and plain language efforts, total call volume in our customer contact center has dropped by nearly 60%, and we are seeing 62% fewer unique callers, which essentially means 62% fewer people calling. As I mentioned to the subcommittee in October, we have created a customer escalation team which combines both customer advocates who provide support to individuals with barriers or those with other unique circumstances, as well as specialized customer service representatives, all integrated in a cross-functional specialized team with advanced expertise and greater autonomy to resolve issues so customers can get faster resolution. This is proving to be extremely well received and efficient. We've also created a centralized customer contact management system, a single point of inquiry for the public, as well as for legislative staff members, increasing the ability to track, monitor, and complete customer inquiries faster. On average, we are responding to these customer inquiries in less than 24 hours. I'm pleased to report we are on track to launch our new website in January. This online gateway will serve as a digital lobby-like experience, streamlining access to critical services, delivering clear and concise information in plain language, and significantly enhancing user engagement and accessibility, advancing our vision of a citizen-centered, transparent, and efficient government agency. A new virtual customer assistant component will provide immediate answers to the most commonly asked questions in a conversational format, further reducing the necessity for customers to contact VEC's call center, improving the citizen experience, and allowing those who do need to get in by phone ease of entry. We are getting very positive feedback in our focus groups from user testing in advance of the website's launch. Furthermore, we will actively monitor questions and feedback to ensure continuous improvement and adaptability to customer needs, particularly in the first several months. Our adjudication division is consistently exceeding the workload demands of incoming claims and efficiently, dramatically improving from 2022 as well as 2023. Our first pay timeliness last quarter was above 80%, and our decision timeliness was above 85%. Over the past 12 months, we have decreased the average age of pending first-level appeals by 94%, from 539 days to 30 days, and we have just 2,102 pending appeals, down from over 40,000 a year ago. In closing, I'd like to once again thank the members of this committee and the General Assembly for your support and partnership in improving Virginia's unemployment insurance system and services. I'm also thankful and proud of the diligent and committed VEC staff who on a daily basis represent the epitome of public service. I'd also like to share with you all today that the VEC's Chief Deputy, Commissioner Jeff Ryan, recently retired after an exemplary career of dedication to the Commonwealth, to DPB, DMV, and the VEC for the last decade. The VEC would not have made the progress it has without his dedication. He will be sorely missed with his vast knowledge. The VEC is well positioned and on our way to enter the top in timeliness for both first pay and decisions. We are on our way to meet the DOL standard for appeals and to possess the operational adaptability, resiliency, and readiness to respond to future economic events. Meet our ultimate and vital purpose as an agency, which is quickly and efficiently providing temporary unemployment assistance, putting dislocated workers on a path towards prompt reemployment. Once again, I do thank you and able to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you for your work, and thanks to, please send our best wishes to former Deputy Commissioner Ryan for his work, and to all your employees. A few questions. Do we know, I think on slide 5, it said the trust fund balance was $1.5 billion. Do we know how much of the trust fund is used during peak times, like during the pandemic, during a year or a month, or?
How much was it used during the pandemic peak?
Well, I mean, if it's 1.5 billion in terms of dollars, what was used during peak usage of the unemployment trust fund? Yes.
I don't have
COVID.
that number, but we'll chat and I can get it. to you.
Okay. And then, are there questions from members of the commission? Okay. Yes, delegate.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Commissioner. I was going back to recommendation 40. I pulled up the JLEC report. I thought you said that did I hear you say that you felt you needed legislation to mandate that? You didn't?
To mandate the requirement of payment electronically.
Got it, okay.
We can offer the option, and we anticipate doing so. We think it's a good idea to offer that option. We can't mandate it.
Okay, thank you.
If I could, just to follow up, is that something the administration's going to be seeking this session or this coming session, or are we ready for that?
I don't believe we'll be seeking it just because of the other legislative priorities that we are implementing from the last session. I think the better route that we anticipate is offering the option, getting that structured and set up, and being able in the following year to be able to require it.
So have it go through as a kind of a test with
Like the
optional electronic
Yes,
payment.
sir. I think the optional approach would be great. Also work with the business community. We have the administrative fee that's going to be new to the business community, going to require a lot of education there, and other efforts to ensure that they are heard and understand the process as opposed to a quick all at once.
Okay. Were there other questions from members of the panel? Yes, Delegate.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for this presentation. It's very insightful. My question is a little separate because I represent parts of Northern Virginia, and wondering if you all are working on any type of strategic or planning regarding plans of the new presidential administration's plan to reconfigure the workforce, the federal workforce, and are you expecting any additional resources or needs for VEC to accommodate those plans?
I think for VEC standpoint, from an application or technical program implementation, I think it might be a little premature. It's a little early for us, but we stand ready, resilient, and adaptable to be able to quickly scale, whether it's for the purposes you're describing or hurricanes and other dislocations. I feel like we're in a very good position of resiliency.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now, I have a question. I don't know if you have this at your fingertips, but do we know when we last adjusted the amount of unemployment compensation available maximum to the typical worker in Virginia?
I do, and for concern about saying a corny joke, I'm going to say it anyways, but Susan is my chat GPT for unemployment insurance. Susan, I think you have that information, correct? For the last time we raised?
Thank you, Senator Evan. I'm Susan Landis. I'm the Unemployment Insurance Director with the Virginia Employment Commission. The weekly benefit amount was last adjusted in 2014.
2014, so 10 years ago.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And do we know also about there's also an amount that you're allowed to earn if you're on unemployment without it impacting your benefit? And do we know when that was adjusted last?
I do not off the top of my head. I've been with the VEC since 99, and as long as I can remember, it was a $50 disregard.
So it's been at least 25 years.
Yes, I would say so.
Okay. Okay, thank you. If you could, remain with us. And I also want to acknowledge Secretary of Labor Brian Slater. Thank you for being here today. We're going to hear from a coalition of folks who wanted to propose legislation. We'd like to get your reaction or may have technical questions for you as they
Certainly. Thank you.
speak.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for being here. Okay. We had some advocates who had met and reviewed some potential legislation that the unemployment subcommittee had heard a few weeks ago. But if you could come forward, because not everyone here is on that subcommittee. Please introduce yourself and tell us about the topic.
Yeah, thank you. Good morning, Senator Evans and rest of the commission. Thank you so much for having us here today. My name is David Smith, and I'm the Director of SALT, Social Action Linking Together. Joined today by Pat with Legal Aid Justice Center, Joanna with Virginia Poverty Law Center. Our coalition also includes the Commonwealth Institute and NELP. So what we are concerned about, first of all, I want to give a big thank you to Commissioner Mellis and your team for the incredible work they've been doing at the VC with unemployment benefits, because it's been a big haul that they've had post-COVID. But we do know that there are a lot of folks in the state that are eligible for unemployment, but are not actually using those benefits. They're not applying for those benefits. Our recipiency rate is one of the lowest in the country. And what we are proposing is now that
Maybe you could just define what the recipiency rate means for folks.
Okay, so recipiency rate is basically the percentage of people who are eligible for unemployment insurance that are applying for unemployment insurance. So take a look here. Do we have those numbers? Okay. All right. But one of the issues that arose from the study that JLARC did several years ago was the low recipiency rate in Virginia, and they connected that with the benefit levels. So as we just heard, it's been a while since benefit levels have been changed. So what we're looking at are 3 different policy proposals that would raise benefit levels and hopefully increase that recipiency rate for Virginians. All right. So the first one that I will talk about is going to be on the income disregard. So income disregard basically means that if you are unemployed and receiving unemployment benefits, that you can earn a certain amount of money before that begins to impact your benefits. Now, why is this important? Because if you are trying to get a job, if you're going in to try out a job and they're saying, look, come in for a day, we're going to pay you 8 hours of wages. Well, for some people, that means that they're going to lose their benefits with the levels that we're at right now. This has not been changed for many years. It's currently set at $50. And as you know, $50 is not very much work now. So what we are proposing is an increase to $125 for that income disregard. That would give potential employees a chance to try out a new job, to go into a new employer, and not have that impact their benefits. The idea here is that that will actually increase reentry into the workforce, because people are able to go into these jobs and and give it a try to make sure it's something they are able to do, that they want to do, without worrying about losing their benefits. And the other one that I will talk about, let me flip my pages over here. Thank you for your patience, is the dependent allowance. This is something that Virginia does not have right now, though we do see it in about 12 other states. And what this does is for folks that are receiving unemployment insurance where they have a dependent that they are responsible for, they receive an additional allowance for that individual. So this means that if you are unemployed and you have 2 children that you're caring for, you would receive an allowance for those 2 dependents. So what we are suggesting is that we provide an additional $25 per dependent per week allowance up to 3 dependents. So the biggest increase that we're looking at per person would be $75. We think this would be significantly impactful for those families. It would take some of that stress away that they are feeling while they're receiving these unemployment benefits and allow them more freedom to find that next employment for them. For our final policy, I'm going to ask Pat to join us to talk about benefit table changes.
Good morning, Commission members. My name is Pat Levy-Lavelle with Legal Aid Justice Center. As David mentioned, I'm here to talk about the third policy that we're working to put forward, which is an increase in the benefit levels that have been nearly a decade, or at this point more, since they've last been increased. Obviously, a lot has changed since 2012 when the benefit increase was passed, since 2014 when it took effect. The economy has changed very significantly since then, and for families that are struggling through periods of unemployment, the benefit levels haven't kept pace. I took a look at some numbers yesterday. The average benefit amount received by unemployed workers in Virginia in 2014, again when the benefit levels were last increased, was $300. The benefit tables allow for a minimum benefit of $60 and up to $378, but the average person was earning or was receiving $300, again, while they were meeting multiple eligibility requirements and continuing through periods of unemployment. Just looking at the inflation rate that has occurred since then, and obviously that's been a big focus of discussion, especially in the last couple of years, $300 in purchasing power in 2014 is $400 now. Virginia ranks in the low 30s among states as far as their average benefit levels received. And so we're not keeping pace with other states. We're not keeping pace with inflation. We looked at multiple proposals, and Virginia ultimately, we think, needs to significantly increase its benefit levels to keep pace, again, with other states, with inflation, with what families need in today's current economy. But we've talked with the VEC, we've looked at the numbers, and we think that what we're proposing is a good first step. And that is starting next year or July 1st of this year, to increase benefit levels by $50 for each person during their recipiency of unemployment insurance benefits. So if, for example, a worker is getting $316, which is the typical amount that a family is receiving each week currently, that amount would go up by a mere $50. We talked with the VEC, and I think that has several benefits over a more elaborate structuring of the benefit table. Number one is it's easy to understand for the general public, for members of the business community, for unemployed workers, for staff at the VEC. Number two, it's easy to administer. Number three, it's modest in scope. As somebody who is primarily a claimant rights advocate, I acknowledge that that maybe works against the interests of my constituents who are primarily unemployed workers in my unemployment insurance work. But I think it's important to take account of the different constituencies that are working with the unemployment system. And I think the fact that it's modest in scope should encourage it to be something that people across the political spectrum and from various perspectives can get on board with. And lastly, fourth, I think it's an opportunity to get the ball rolling. Again, it's been 10 years. It's been too long. This $50 increase can get the conversation started. And the other aspect of the bill that feeds on that theme is that we propose that a study occur within the next 2 years by the Commission on Unemployment Compensation to be supported with VEC staff capacity to look at this issue of how to sustainably increase benefit levels on a more sustained basis. That's something that the JLARC study indicated that Virginia should look at. It hasn't happened yet, and we think it's high time that that did happen. So I thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. So if I've got it right, you've got three proposals that your coalition came with. One was to change the income disregard of $50 to $100. And I understand that was last changed in 2005. The dependent allowance to allow for up to 3 dependents, $25 more per week. And thirdly, to increase the maximum benefit level to by $50 from $316 to $366.
There's a couple of clarifications with respect to that, Senator Eben. With respect to the earned income disregard, the proposal is to change it from the current 50, which was put in place in 2005, to $125. And the logic of that, and we had talked with Commissioner Jeff Ryan and Ashley Irvin at the VEC. And the logic of that is that at the time that benefit disregard was put in place, that $50 represented approximately 10 hours of work at the then applicable Virginia minimum wage. The Virginia minimum wage as of January of next year is $12.41. And so taking that same 10 hours of work concept and multiplying by the minimum wage that takes effect next January would get us to approximately $125. And that's the reason we settled on that figure. The idea is to give folks who may be interested in getting an occasional part-time job here or there or trying things out are incentivized by not penalizing their unemployment benefits to try those things. And in many cases, or at least in some cases, that may in fact lead to more permanent or sustained employment. So we think it's in fact a pro-work policy. With respect to the $50 increase, I believe you mentioned the 316, which is the average benefit level now, going to 366. Workers who get a benefit of less than 316 would also be bumped up by $50. Folks who might happen to get a weekly benefit amount of more than 316 would also be bumped up by $50. So it's not tied to the 316. It's whatever they get based on the current benefit tables. In fact, there would be a $50 federal supplement in the same way that during the pandemic at various times people were getting $300, $200. President Trump put in a temporary increase through FEMA. This is obviously much more modest than that, but it's the same sort of concept that you get whatever your base level benefit is plus, as proposed, a $50 bump.
Yes, thank you so much. So when we talk about letting them try out a job without it affecting the benefits, how long do they get? Is it just a one day? Is it a week? How long are you thinking that they would try out a job before it would affect their benefits?
Sure, that's a great question. So as you may know, under existing law, the person's earnings in the base period will determine both the maximum weekly benefit amount that they're eligible for and also the number of weeks that they're eligible for. Current benefit amounts based on that table are from $60 to $378, and the weeks that people will be eligible for vary between 12 weeks and 26 weeks. Basically, that this entirely keeps everything about the current benefit structure, including the notion of an earned income disregard, which currently is $50, and it simply increases the number to $125. And so as it is now, a person has to file a weekly claim for each week that they seek benefits. They will report whatever their earnings happen to be on any given week. The first $50 will be held free and clear, and then dollar for dollar beyond the $50, their weekly benefit amount for that week will be decreased. And that's, again, in accordance with current law. The proposal simply changes that $50 to $125.
Is that your question? Okay, great. Now, we have those three proposed changes. Before the committee takes action, we have public comment further down on our agenda, but is there anyone here in the room today who who wants to comment on those three proposals? And I should say that these were each brought forward at the Unemployment Insurance Subcommittee meeting in October, and we circulated them to both labor representatives as well as the Virginia Chamber of Commerce, and we have not gotten reaction either way from since then. I don't believe I've received correspondence. Do members of the committee have any other questions or? Okay, so why don't we go through them individually then? First, I believe you said was the income disregard, changing that from, which one is that?
They should be in order. Yeah.
Okay.
50 to 100. Right.
Okay, from $50 to $100. Are there members of the commission who have questions about or would like to make a motion or discussion about making that change as a proposal for the next General Assembly session? Yes, Delegate.
A question, how do we anticipate this will impact the fund balances? What are the costs that's going to be incurred with this change?
Are you able to address that?
I don't think that I know that offhand. My impression is that, the number of workers who are earning part-time wages while they're unemployed in advance of 50 but less than 125 is a small fraction of workers going through the system. And I don't mean to that to be dilatory from your question. I think it's probably relatively small, but I don't know that number.
Okay. Were there further questions or discussion? Do we want to? Is there an appetite to endorse that as a recommendation of the Commission for the 2025 session?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Delegate.
I think I heard different dates at different points, but it sounds like this hasn't been increased since either 1999 or 2005. It's practically 20 years. I think sort of the rationale provided for how that amount was approached, the sort of 50 hours representing 10 hours of work at minimum wage, I think it's perfectly reasonable and understandable to raise that at this point. So I would be happy to make a motion to endorse this proposal.
Okay, so there's a motion and a second for 100, yeah, to increase to $100. Unless there's further discussion, we'll proceed and vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so we'll note a no there. Okay. Then that was one proposal. The next was the dependent allowance, which is, which one's that? Yeah, we're going to hear from Marby.
So the members before you today, you have 4 bill drafts, preliminary bill drafts, and the first one is the one that Senator Eben just described, the income disregard amount. The next bill draft that you have before you relates to increasing an individual's weekly benefit amount by $100 higher than the current benefit amount. So in bill form, that would make a new table of benefit amounts in the code. The next bill draft is beginning July 1, 2026 to adjust annually what those weekly benefit amounts shall be based on a statewide economic metric and have the VEC publish those amounts on its website. Then the fourth bill draft before you relates to the functions of the subcommittee and this full Commission on Unemployment Compensation. So those are the preliminary bill drafts before you. The dependent allowance policy recommendation was discussed during the subcommittee, but from my understanding, it wasn't recommended by the subcommittee to move forward, and that's why there is not a bill draft form of that before you.
I don't think we came to a conclusion either way on the dependent. I thought we heard of it, but we didn't. The subcommittee didn't vote on recommendations for any of these. Yeah. Okay. So what was the one we're up to now is the dependent one, Marvy, is that correct? Was that the second one? No, what was the second one?
No, there is not a bill draft before you
there's not one of
today
that.
about
Okay.
dependent
Okay.
allowance. So
That
these
was-
don't match up exactly to the 1, 2, 3
Okay.
policy proposals that they just explained, but these are the bill drafts that are prepared for
Okay,
recommendation.
okay. Then which is the next one that we have a draft for is, I'm just looking to make sure I have the right one.
One-time increase by $100.
The one-time increase of $100. And we said that we think that was last adjusted in 2014, is that right?
2005.
Oh, 2005 for that one,
Oh,
okay.
that one was 2014.
For 2014. Okay, so this would allow people to, I'm just looking, yeah, this was a $100 increase over the current weekly benefit amount. Is there anything else you want to say about that?
We've not talked as a coalition about that specific amount. We largely represent groups that are interested primarily in seeking sustenance for workers and their families who are going through unemployment. I anticipate we would be on board with a $100 increase. Our conversation in candor with the VEC on November 18th, the suggestion there was to consider an increase across the board of $50. And so I want to be clear and candid with that. Obviously, from the perspective of unemployed workers, 100 is better, but I want to be candid that was what the conversation was with the VEC on November 18th.
Okay, with the Commissioner Mellis, did you want to come forward? Is this something that you all had time to consider at all?
Thank you. Not specifically. I think the technical response to the $50 was the question about how much impact it would have to taxes. Is that correct? So the $50 was just a technical response to how much of an increase could be done without an increase in taxes, and the approximation was $50.
So the thought is that $50 might not increase the employer tax?
That's correct.
Okay, but would provide a little bit more for the claimants?
Right.
Okay.
We did not propose a $50 as, in support of a $50 rather than the technical.
Right, but that's where you might not have to increase employer taxes.
Yes, Senator Evans.
Okay. Is there any discussion from members of the committee or questions? Yes. Delegate.
Yeah. My question, thank you, Mr. Chairman, is I guess I would like a little more certainty on where this tax rate would be impacted. And I heard from the commissioner, I think that we don't think it would. Have we really studied at $50, we know what the impact would be? I'm thinking of the employers in my part of the world. This is a significant expense for those folks. And I think we need to be very programmed and thoughtful in what we're doing this. So I'm uncomfortable moving forward without certainty and knowing how the tax rate could be impacted if benefits are changed.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Let me ask Commissioner Mellis, when you said that you thought that it was not likely or uncertain to increase taxes, can you drill down a little bit more on that?
Well, the conversation was, I think, more discussional or theoretical,
Okay.
and we weren't provided per se a specification as this is what the legislation is, what is going to happen specifically. The determination on taxes isn't a simple process, so it would require some fiscal analysis that is rather in depth. That was the conversation. It was very theoretical discussion. If it was to raise, and if we did not want to raise it to a point that taxes are not increased, where might that fall? Is how the conversation would have been.
Can we ask you to do some of that research before the session?
Absolutely. And let me just double check that we don't. Am I confirming that correctly?
I did run some of the possible increases and got the numbers for how much it increased, how it would affect tax rates.
Okay.
Could you, I'm sorry.
We're gonna get some clarification. Why don't you come forward?
He's just introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Conrad Buckler. I'm a senior economist at the Virginia Department of Workforce Development and Advancement, formerly with the VEC. With the numbers that I ran for them were individual, not say if you raise the disallowable income and add to the weekly benefit amount. So if we were to change the $50 to $100 for the income disregard, that would have a negligible effect on the trust fund and should not affect taxes. Now, to raise the benefit, the weekly benefit amounts for all of the tax tables, a $20 increase would result in approximately 49 cents per employee tax increase. So a $50 increase would be about 75 cents per employee.
You said negligible impact. When you say
for the income disregard proposal.
Okay, and then on the other, you said 75 cents. And what does that mean, per year or?
Per employee per year.
Per year, okay. Okay, I don't know if that answers Delegate Runyon's question. Okay, so, and we said that was last increased in what year? This has not been increased since 2014, so it's been 10 years, so it would be 75 cents. Is there further questions? Yes, Delegate Runyon.
To clarify, the 75 cents was based on how much of an increase?
$50 across the board.
And Mr. Chair, follow-up question.
Yes, please.
Is it fair to assume that's a linear extension? If it were go to $100, it would be $1.50 per employee per year?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. So that's before us if we choose to take action on that. Are there any other questions? No? Okay. Feel free to speak up. Okay. And what?
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
thank you first for that information. For those of us who weren't on the subcommittee, is extremely helpful. I think, with a 10-year time difference, I think that this is a good proposal, and I'd like to move that we move forward with it.
Okay. Is there a second? Okay, and a second. Okay. So unless there's further discussion, we'll now vote on the second proposal. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Okay, so that's 2 noes, 1 no. Okay. And then we had, what was our third one more?
The next bill before you is the document, at the top of it, it says 251-00534. It's just so we're all on the same page. And that would be to adjust an individual's weekly benefit amount based on the VEC's computation of average weekly wage, and to publish those weekly benefit amounts on the website. So how that would be calculated is explained in the bill, starting on line 18.
And would we be doing both of these at once, or this would be in addition to the others? Because what we're doing is we're adjusting the benefit amount in the previous bill. So then,
Right, the previous bill that was recommended was a one-time increase starting for claims effective on or after January 1, 2026, to increase those benefit amounts by a flat amount of $100. This next one would be an annual adjustment to weekly benefit amounts, so it may make sense to start that the following year.
okay, it says to change it on 2026, or?
Yeah, these are just drafts before you, so
Yeah.
whatever the commission actually recommends, that's what I'll have the draft reflect. So
Okay.
if we wanted to recommend both of these bills, and one option would be to have the annual adjustments go into effect starting 2027.
Did your coalition have a position on this one?
we don't, and let me clarify what I mean by that. Ultimately, as claimant advocates, part of the discussion needs to be how to catch up with other states with inflation, with the future of unemployment. Obviously, the benefit levels having not been increased for a decade. Where we left the conversation with the VEC, again from a technical perspective, was on November 18th, was the notion of doing this $50 flat increase and pairing that with a study to occur within the next 2 years, looking at how to more sustainably increase benefit levels. And so my understanding and candor is that this indexed approach at this point was not part of where we left the conversation with the VEC. Ultimately, I think that could be certainly part of the solution. And make no mistake, this coalition is looking toward a future where benefit levels do need to increase further. But I think, again, in candor, where we left the conversation from a technical perspective with the VEC was this flat $50 increase for now, paired with a study, as JLARC had previously recommended in 2021, to look at how to increase the benefit levels over time. So that indexing approach could certainly be part of the solution longer term, but I don't think it's a proposal that, although we would support, we're not in candor bringing it this time.
Okay, so the question is whether we consider this or consider a study as an enactment clause to the other bill, or none of the above. Is there discussion or suggestions? I would suggest that we at minimal study it with an enactment clause to one of the other bills. So I'm going to suggest that we just vote to recommend that we study how to increase, whether through indexing or otherwise, in consultation with the VEC. And who would be part to that study, the VEC, and who else?
My understanding of the proposal would be that the Commission on Unemployment Compensation would study it with the VEC. I would also encourage the bill language to be that stakeholder perspectives, both claimant and employer perspectives, and otherwise be considered in thinking about that, because ultimately Virginia needs to move together with one voice on this, that benefit levels need to be sustainable, with an understanding that that they're not keeping pace now, and they need to be higher, but an inclusive approach that incorporates multiple voices is going to be the best way to do that.
Okay, do we need perhaps a motion to encourage a study by this body with stakeholder perspectives, particularly the VEC, on potential increases, whether through indexing or other means?
Mr. Chair, I'd be happy to make that motion.
Okay, so there's a motion, and I'll second it, to study potential increases by this body with stakeholder perspectives, including the VEC. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so that carries. The last one, yeah, Martha, please.
Before we get to the fourth bill draft that's before you, I just wanted to clarify that the commission can still consider the policy recommendation for a dependent allowance. What the advocates suggested was to have a dependent allowance of $25 per dependent, up to 3 dependents. I don't have that in a draft form before you right now, but if that's something that the commission wants to discuss or recommend, that's completely appropriate.
Okay. Is there further discussion on advancing a dependent allowance of $25 per dependent up to 3? Oh, yes, please. Well, I think it would be in concept. Yeah.
Then I would like to move that.
Okay, so there's a motion and a second to consider a dependent allowance of up to 3 dependents at $25 per dependent. Any discussion on that?
I got a question.
Yes, please, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, quick question. I'm divorced, and my husband was laid off 3 months ago. We have 3 kids, so he claims them. I'm laid off now today. I have 3 kids. Do I get to claim those same 3 kids?
I think that the way that other states do that is typically, to my understanding, that benefits need to be claimed on somebody's unemployment account or unemployment claim within a certain period of first filing. In your scenario, obviously, if you're laid off today, you've got 3 kids. You would be in a position to claim them at the time of first filing for benefits. The couple other pieces of that are verification, and also other states ensure that, if in split custody arrangements, typically whether somebody can claim would follow, where they fall on a tax form with a goal of, say, in a divorce scenario, split custody, where, say, both people become unemployed, there's a goal in these other states of making sure that both workers can't sort of like duly claim the benefit, so that so that there's only one allotment of dependent allowance per person. I think those go into the questions of implementation. As we noted, 13 other states already do this. My understanding is that the VEC has been talking with other states that already have this in place to figure out some of those implementation logistics. We've started talking with other states too. And so I think those are some of the types of questions that need to be worked out in the ultimate draft bill language. But I do take note of your concerns. And we're happy to dialogue further on what those look like in practice.
And Mr. Chair, just, first meeting, I didn't serve on the subcommittee, so I'm going to vote no to this. I'm going to vote no to all of it so I can do my due diligence and study a little more. Because I know, like North Carolina, it's a 50-50. You have 3 kids, you have 1.5. So I think it's a little bit more in depth than just passing a piece of legislation real quick. So I just wanted to let you know that.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So make sure I'm clear on this. This is a new incremental benefit, Mr. Chairman. These dollars are not currently paid out to any claimant in the Commonwealth.
That's right.
Okay. So as I understand it, the rate an employer pays is based significantly on the experience, both their individual experience, but also the experience of the whole Commonwealth. But on the individual employer's experience, would this not then give disparate impact? If you lay off 3 people and one of them may have dependents, then you're going to have a higher cost than the other 2. Right now, the cost is the same. It's based on salary, and where this would then create another variable. And it seems like it's asking the employers to predict something that's very difficult. They are budgeting for this tax. And again, I have concerns that we're adding costs in without understanding what those costs are back to the employer. So, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, can I just a quick follow-up to that? Is that do we currently provide a per dependent benefit at all?
Not within Virginia's current unemployment insurance system.
Okay.
With respect to your concern, Delegate Runyon, I do take note of that. And one thing that I don't think we've considered, but I think certainly could be done as a matter of legislative drafting, is that there is currently a provision in the Code of Virginia. I believe it's at 528.1 of Title 60.2. Don't quote me on that, but there is a section that talks about multiple circumstances already where somebody gets unemployment insurance benefits, but those incremental costs are not tagged to the specific employer from whom they've lost their job, but rather to pool charges broadly distributed across the Commonwealth to sort of, in other words, socialize and broaden those costs. I think a couple of examples are workers who have lost their jobs due to a bona fide medical condition that does not render them unable to work generally, but makes them separated from that employer. I think military trailing spouses may be another one. But with respect to the hardship that might fall on a particular employer who's got somebody who needs a family dependent allowance if this law goes into effect, I think as a policy matter, we could certainly make the choice to incorporate those as things that are broadly distributed by the Commonwealth rather than borne by specific employers.
Thank you. So I believe we had a motion for, in concept, to approve a dependent allowance and a second. Was there further discussion? No. Okay. So I guess we can just vote on that then. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
No.
Okay, 2 noes will be noted. Okay. Now, the final potential piece of legislation, I believe. Marby, do you want to describe this one?
Yes, certainly. So that's the document beginning with 251000833. This one is not exactly a policy recommendation. It has to do more with the makeup of the commission. It seeks to dissolve the Unemployment Insurance Subcommittee, which was required to meet through June 2025. And as part of that subcommittee, there are 2 non-legislative citizen members. So the way it does this is by adding those 2 non-legislative citizen members to the membership of this commission, transfers the powers and the duties of the subcommittee to this commission. And the enactment clause at the end states that the existing members, the non-legislative members on the subcommittee, shall serve in that capacity on this commission for 1 year before the Speaker and the Committee on Rules were to appoint those non-legislative members after that.
And for clarity, I believe that one of those is representing business and one represents workers of our current membership on the subcommittee. So this was an effort to have not just legislators on this committee, but a representative of business, a representative of workers. Is there any discussion to that? Okay. Yes.
Mr. Chair, I think I have a question for council, which is I'm trying to think back to some of the other code I've seen about the appointment of commissions. Is there a way to not necessarily tie the employee and the employer representatives to specific bodies? I don't know there's an easy way to do that, but it's...
Do you mean about the appointment of them?
Yes.
I just tried to use a neutral way of drafting as appointing one by the House and one by the Senate. I'm happy to change that or look at any other way that we want to do appointments. I just try to think of a simple and fair way.
I think it's fairly common for them to be appointed by either the Speaker or the Senate Rules Committee. Did you have concerns?
No, I agree that is a common way of doing things. I was just noting that the House gets the employee stakeholder and the Senate gets the employer representative, and I don't have a suggestion for how to do that differently, but...
Okay. Okay, is there... Yes, Doug Runyon.
Thank you. I guess I'm struggling to understand the goal of this change. What are we trying to accomplish by bringing these 2 folks in, which I have a sense this is more a legislative purview issue. And so a little concerned that we would change the dynamics.
Well, right now we have a subcommittee that has a worker and a management or employer perspective, and we wanted to see if we could have them at this commission as well, rather than just legislators. To have some expertise at the table, yes.
Does the subcommittee go away at some point?
Yes.
So is there a reason we couldn't maintain the subcommittee and have it perform that role and report to the full committee or commission, I guess is what we are?
The subcommittee sunsets on what?
There's not actually a specific sunset for the subcommittee. It just says that it shall meet quarterly through June of 2025 after that.
Okay. So it will sunset after this session.
Okay.
Otherwise.
Yeah.
It's still in existence.
Oh,
It just says it has to meet quarterly through 2025.
So then after 2020,
Upon first reading, I also thought that that meant it went away, but it won't go away without this bill.
Oh, I see. So this would discontinue the subcommittee and take some of the expertise that was on it and bring it to us rather than have a separate body.
And perhaps, Mr. Chair, if I could follow up.
Please.
Perhaps we could make the subcommittee more robust and include more stakeholders in it for different points of view. For instance, I'm a very rural area. Those dollars we're talking about relating to unemployment numbers have a different relative value than if I were in, I assume, Alexandria, where the average wage, or Loudon, let's pick on Loudon today. Their income's 2.5 times my income in Augusta. So so it'd be interesting if we could also create that discussion from citizens relative to a geographic component.
Well, we were thinking that the subcommittee, in spite of, it's met over the last few years, but it's a bit duplicative of this committee, except that we don't always have the expertise of employer and employee on this committee. So that is another option, as you suggest. Okay. So we could either do nothing, or we could add the 2 non-legislative citizen members to this committee and then sunset the other commission for good, or we could extend it further.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Senator.
So the subcommittee we're talking about, y'all met a couple weeks ago.
Yes.
A majority of us are not on. Is it compiled of everybody on this committee, or is there other people that don't serve on that committee that don't serve on this committee?
It's it requires that there be members of House Commerce and Labor, Senate Commerce and Labor, and Management. And it's not totally a subcommittee of this. There are some people on this committee that have been a Parker chairs that I'm on it. Trying to remember what the makeup is, Marby.
So at least one employee and employer representative, as you mentioned, and then at least one member of this commission, and then a member from each of the following committees: the House Committee on Appropriations, House Committee on Labor and Commerce, Senate Committee on Commerce and Labor, and then Senate Finance and Appropriations as well.
Okay, follow up. Mr. Chair.
Yes, Senator.
So then if we do away with that commission, that we're going to add those two to this committee?
If we adopt this proposal, yes. Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Delegate.
Thank you. I don't mean to drag this out, but Delegate Bennett Parker's comment about questioning, why which one got that, again, if I go back to, let's consider expanding the subcommittee, and then you could flip those roles. You could have a Senate representative as an employer and an employee, and a House representative as an employee and employer. And ideally, I would like to see some geographic diversity, but and maybe other diversity. I'm not haven't thought through this, but I think it's an opportunity to maybe create a better information flow of how this stuff actually works and how it impacts our citizens, and without diluting the legislative concerns or purview.
Thank you, Delegate.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Okay. Yes, Delegate Bennett Parker.
Question for council. I'm on some other boards and commissions that have created sort of study groups or work groups during the interim of that own body. Is that something that this commission, like if the subcommittee, if we enacted this, could the commission still set up a subcommittee and appoint whoever we deem appropriate to that body?
Yes, we could do that through legislation, the same way that the subcommittee was created the first time, or we could make a work group for this commission.
And I guess my question is, I'm trying to think of the specific examples. Maybe there was legislation involved. I guess my question was, did we have that authority without necessarily a legislative mandate? I think I've seen, maybe it's in the context of bills getting referred.
There is an advisory committee as well, but I don't think that's exactly what you're asking. I think the commission itself has the purview to set up a work group and study any topics that it wants to. I don't know if the commission could make its own subcommittee without that being in code.
So we can have a work group, but not a subcommittee. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair? Yes. So I have, I'm not on the other group, and I've listened to everyone and gone a little back and forth. But ultimately, I think where I'm landing is that we duplicate a lot of efforts around here. And I'm just speaking for me with 3 kids, a job, a husband, all of these responsibilities. If we can streamline these processes and committees, because we're all working towards the same goal, and also have the representation. And, due to the genius of leadership, I noticed that we have a lot of geographical representation already on this committee, from Hampton Roads, South Side, Southwest. I mean, just looking down. So I think that we can be very thoughtful. We can bring those people into this committee and be very thoughtful about ensuring that geographical and other representation is added. But I am not Thomas Jefferson getting on my horse and coming to Richmond to go to meetings. This is we need to bring our way of work into this century, and I think that this is a small step in that direction. So, thank you.
Okay, I'm going to treat that as a motion to approve.
Yes.
The draft to streamline a little bit, but add some expertise to our committee.
Second.
Okay, so there's a motion and a second. Unless there's discussion, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so we'll note a no there. Okay, now we have public comment. Are there members of the public who have not spoken, who would like to address us? Please come forward. Good morning.
Good morning, Chairman and members of the commission. My name is Lisa Dance, and I'm a resident of Henrico County. And I wanted to come and bring a claimant's perspective to the Virginia Employment Commission. I want to highlight ongoing issues that aren't captured in the metrics. There are real human costs when people do not receive their unemployment benefits in a timely manner. I was lucky during my 3.5-year ordeal with the Virginia Employment Commission that I was able to support myself, but others have not been. And it has always concerned me over this whole 3.5 years when I was dealing with that people needed to eat and they needed to have a housing and different things like that, and they weren't being able to get their benefits. I know one gentleman who just had his appeal hearing in August for benefits that dated back to 2020. Despite winning his appeal, he still hasn't received any money, and during the 4 years that he has waited since 2020, he lost his car, he experienced homelessness and other hardships. And I feel like no one has really taken account how people have been harmed by all of these issues over the last 3.5 to 4 years. The VEC clearing this backlog of appeals doesn't address people like me who waited over 18 months after winning my appeal to get the money I was due. And I only received the money after a reporter intervened on my behalf. And suddenly, 4 days later, I got a check in the mail. The new technology that the VEC has promoted has often been ineffective. The automated phone system that's supposed to list the issues that hold up your claim. This spring, when I listened to it, one of my issues was resolved in 2021, and the 7 other issues had pending review and no dates on them. And that went on for months. So I was no better informed after using this service than if I hadn't. Another example is that despite thousands of people who had claims that dated back to the pandemic, the online forms in the portal did not recognize that there had been the temporary waiver of work search requirements. So it rejected my forms because I was trying to indicate that those weeks were when that waiver was in effect. And so there was a back and forth with that. And eventually I had to submit the forms by hand, mail them in, and that was just wasted time. I've often got conflicting information from VEC employees, and when I asked, this was in June, when could I expect an answer or what would happen after an issue had been escalated? The employees seemed surprised that I was even asking about next steps. And the response, which has often been the response, is you just wait until you hear something from them. And so why am I speaking out this now when I have already gotten my money? It's because with mass layoffs that continue to happen and a 2025 that's uncertain, people who are really in vulnerable positions can't afford these types of issues to continue. And so I just wanted to come here and to ask, what's the VEC's obligation for timely services and having really effective processes and communication and technology? Because they should, people are in very vulnerable positions when you don't have a job. And so I just wanted to make a claimant's perspective on what is happening, and I felt like that it would be a benefit to look behind the metrics and really hear claimants' voices on when things are happening. So that's my statement. And I have it written, and I also can submit. I've written 2 articles about this and had them published about the issues and sort of detailed what's happening because I work as a user experience researcher. And so like when technology doesn't work just on simple things, it can have a massive impact. So thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Dan.
Thank you.
We do have a question for you from Senator Craig.
Yes, thank you. And thank you for coming up and sharing your story. I do know I was involved heavily in receiving claims because I was a chief of staff during COVID for a senator. And so it was overwhelming. I know the system was antiquated, very antiquated, like 30 years had never been updated. I do believe when COVID hit, it just probably crashed our system. And then the commission did not have the staff because I worked with the former commissioner, and she said they didn't have the staff. This was just totally a shock. So I'm sorry you had to go through that and everyone else. But you did talk about like in 2020 and things like that. Have you been, I'd like to first ask Commissioner, has the system been upgraded since, the antiquated 2020 COVID? And then have you experienced anything in like 23, 24? I mean,
Yes.
that has not been up to par?
Yes, so the issue about the phone system, that was just this spring. So that's 2024. And then the issue with the portal, that was last year in September of 2023 about that. Yes.
Thank you. Okay, thank you for being here. Commissioner Mellis is still here. Senator Craig wanted to just ask you a question, if you could.
Sure. The system, again, was very antiquated. Have we updated that system? She was speaking about the phone system. Is that new, or is that a work in progress?
Yes, Senator Evans. Sorry. I wish I could provide a single point answer to the complications that people have experienced since the 2020, 10 years of claims that came in a matter of months. In terms of the whole system, I think went live in 21. There has been a number of corrections and fixes. One of them was a JLARC recommendation with our vendor, and that is something that is continuously improved literally on a daily basis. If we run into an issue where we see something is unclear or not working, we run it down, we code it, and we put it into production to fix. Those fixes are few and far in between at this point. So the mainframe, if you will, the functional VUIS system is operating and without flaws. The biggest flaw that existed was the ability to get in online, and that was a fraud issue. Our business rules for getting into the system were extremely stringent because of the level of fraud that us and all unemployment agencies had experienced. In January of this year, so 24, is when we implemented the ID.me verification process, which has seen 90% success. So the individuals claimed to September of 23, we would have not been on a new login system. We are seeing extremely high benefit of the ID.me. In terms of the call center, we go through ebbs and flows of call volume. However, our deflections have reduced by close to 80 or 90%, significantly down from where they were. We also have our customer contact form we added as a streamlined single point form to fill out. You don't have to email multiple emails, contact your legislator. If you fill out that contact form, every Tuesday morning, I am meeting with our call center staff and our escalation team to ask, what is the inventory? How fast are you getting to people? And less than 24 hours is how fast we're able to respond to individuals. The complexity of somebody winning an appeal is vast. It's not as simple as you won the appeal and we're able to cut the check. You do have to go back and reevaluate monetary determination for which weeks are specifically reversed. And sometimes, depending on other monies that the individual got, they may not be due money, but all of that gets evaluated through the monetary determination process. So it isn't as easy as winning. The appeal is just the legal part. Once that paper is handed to the clerk, if you will, then it has to go through the process before that check is cut. So I'm hopeful that that answered your question.
Thank you. It does somewhat. Do we have an appeals committee? I mean, you have your regular staff that handle. Do you have a different set of staff that just handle appeals so we can maybe expedite these a little bit? I mean, 18 months, that was kind of a long time.
So those particular hearings, the pandemic era hearings, we're through. We're done with them, with the exception of like 42. But many of those are the tax related. So the majority of those are gone. We're only working with the really complex cases at this point. We don't have pandemic era at this time. We have 2,000 approximately in our inventory, and they average 30 days. So we are in a very good place. A year ago, we were at 539 days average. We're at 30 days. So we have been working as diligently as possible, and I can say the agency is in a really good position to, our metrics in terms of appeals and timeliness are only going up consistently. We are addressing any issue that comes to our attention, for sure.
Thank you. Mr. Chair?
Yes.
So I want to first thank you for this impromptu. I know this wasn't part of the agenda, but I want to preface my statement and then ask a question. So one, as you know, we all feel like an extension of VEC. Most of our staff time is spent helping people navigate, our constituents navigate VEC. And I have seen some improvement in wait times and responses. I have to say that I can see how hard your team is working, but the system is still broken. And while you may see 90% increases, my deep concern is that the claimants and the people who obviously need these services and this support are still spending entirely too much time calling their delegate, calling their senator, running around, waiting for an answer, getting on a call. It is overly complicated. And I recognize that you inherited some things and they're, especially with pandemic era. But as you're meeting and working with your team, are you getting feedback from people who have navigated the system? So do you have any work groups or anything that the user experience is being included in those conversations?
Absolutely.
Wonderful.
And I appreciate the comments, Delegate Munson King. I would say I disagree with that is a difficult process. And the reason for that, and you mentioned it, if you are spending a majority of your constituent time on VEC, we absolutely need to talk, because we have gone from the upwards of 600 when we came in, 600 to 1,000 constituent inquiries to probably maybe 15, and total. And we are simply not hearing from delegates and senators. And I'm not saying that's our measure. Our measure is a variety of directions to hear these complaints. What we have not heard any complaints about is once they enter the system, that it is a difficult process. In terms of answering your question about do we have a user group? Yes, we have a user group. We have struggled to get them to participate, many of which have said they feel like a lot of it has been corrected, if not all. The call center remains the one place that I will not rest until we answer every call. We are only deflecting between 700 and 1,000 calls in a week. That's down from upwards of 15 to 20,000 a week. So, and we are not resting until those go to zero. The government needs to answer the phone when somebody calls. Those deflections are typically individuals who have already gone through our system multiple times rather than the first call. And oftentimes their claim is in process. But again, we are a non-general fund agency. I wish I could hire 60 more. We work with DMV and taxation on a call center work group. They are oftentimes asking us about how we've been able to do what we've done with so few staff. I'm very proud of the work the call center has done to reach its efficiency. So if you all are seeing problems, please get with me, because we are simply not seeing or hearing that. We do have the situations such as the one you just heard. Those, prior to here, I worked at the Virginia Department of Professional Occupational Regulation. It's very similar that complicated situations, somebody can get lost in that process. Our way of addressing that was development of the escalation team, which just got stood up July or August, and is still iterating towards improving. But the point of that was ownership of the issue. It was so that people do not get bounced around. I'm not going to say that never happens. That would be unfair to say. But the escalation team has done a fantastic job of owning the issue from the point it hits. I challenge them to say, you cannot close this out until the person says they're satisfied. So I would say I think the Virginia Employment Commission is in a state that it probably has not been for some time. And our efficiency, any which way we measure it, our numbers are not something that we kind of throw together. We have weekly operational meetings with every division in our organization, all of our frontline people. We sit and discuss, what is the number? What's the actual number? What is the impact to the consumer, to the citizen? We are a customer-first agency. So I would say I'm extremely proud of where we are. I don't think the numbers that we've presented or ever present are inflated in any capacity. And I can speak about this for a long time and would enjoy the opportunity to even have you all, navigate the system, which I did on my first day on the job, was logging in and saying, what does it look like? Right. And that's we went into overdrive to say, what's broken is getting into the system. Let's fix that. And since that time, we really do not get the complaints about getting into the system. It's usually some other unique pre-pandemic or pandemic issue. Our non-pandemic folks are flowing through very fast.
Got it. So just to confirm, Mr. Chair, so currently there's a 30-day on average to process VEC claims.
No, so the 30 days an appeals inventory. So you have your initial claims that come in.
What is your average for that?
So 80% are being done within, sorry, I'm gonna refer to my expert because I want to get these right.
Thank you, Delegate London King. So the Department of Labor standard is that claims for benefits either must have a payment issued or a decision issued if it's being denied within 21 days of the claim being filed. And so presently we are at
I'll get about
86% on decisions.
80, yeah.
So
And
86% of decisions are being issued within 21 days of the issue being detected.
And 80 timely pay.
80% are being paid within 21 days of the claim having been filed.
Okay, those are the claims. And then the appeals time average is?
The completion of the appeal average, I have the inventory of 30 days. So everything we have in is 30 days. I think we're completing within 45 days. And we think within the next month, we're going to reach the DOL standard, which is 80% within that number of days. So it's rapid.
Okay, thank you for that. And I think that just to close, Mr. Chair,
yes.
But I think that there clearly, as you stated, between the appeals decision and the payment, that there is some work that you all are continuing to do to improve that. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, and what I'll say is once these pandemic era cases get through, that's really not going to be an issue. The reason it's complicated is because you had these special PUA claims and others that we cannot ignore whether or not they received some of that. So the moment somebody has a pandemic claim, gets an appeal reversed, we have to then look at all of their pandemic activity to determine how much they might be able to be paid now.
And those are the cases that are down to 45?
Correct.
Correct. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator.
Okay, I've gotten the queue. Did Delegate Bowling, did you have a question?
Yes.
Let's go to you, and then we're going to go to Delegate Bennett Parker. Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. I want to thank, I believe, Ms. Dance for her testimony, especially coming out of Henrico County, because I have several constituents in my email, I think 5 or 6, that are having VEC issues. And I do want to echo what Delegate London King brought forth, because although I have seen the progress at the VEC, especially in my day job, and how folks are able to make appeals and go through the system, along with some of my family members who I've had to walk through getting in and logging in and checking and updating all those things. There has been some improvements, but I do just want to emphasize that there's still work to do, right? There's always more work to do. There's never not more work to do. And so I want to take you up on the offer of having a conversation, because I did have a very strongly worded letter coming to you this week, but I will not send it since I'm seeing you in person. And hopefully that we can have some dialogue and discussion, because I do believe that there are some particular issues, including I think one of my biggest problems currently is in the auditing unit. With response times and things like that. So we can talk offline about that, but I did want to note that for my constituents and to say that there are some problems that we are seeing, and it does take up a lot of our staff capacity.
Yeah, please, we welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As a follow-up to, you mentioned in response to Delegate London King, a user group. Is that the Customer Advisory Council, or is that a separate group?
Yes.
And then follow-up, Mr. Chair. So I think according to my notes, that last met September of 2023. I know there was a meeting scheduled for September 2024 that was rescheduled because of the Boar's Head, but as of October, there wasn't a date for that yet. So has
December the 11th, but we cannot get participation. And so we're going to try and go back to the drawing board on how to encourage these individuals to participate or find another way of creating that environment for user feedback direct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. If that, I think that's it on the panel. If there's anyone else who wanted to make public comment, come forward. Otherwise, I believe that exhausts our agenda. And I would say with that, we are adjourned.
Senate of Virginia, Richmond, Virginia.